Good afternoon. It's great to be with you today. Thank you for being here. As many of you know, while we do this every day, today and this week, we're recognizing our ranchers and others who contribute to our state's #1 industry during Montana Agriculture Week. I'm pleased to have Director Mike Foster of the Department of Agriculture, as well as Executive Officer Mike Honeycutt of the Department of Livestock here with me today, also joined by General Matt Quinn, Executive Director of my COVID-19 Task Force. Today we have some exciting things to discuss as it relates to Montana's ag industry. Then I'll provide an update on the state's COVID-19 response and vaccine distribution. On Monday, I was pleased to proclaim this week to be Montana Agriculture Week in celebration of the 27,000 farms and ranches across our great state. I visited 2 of them on Tuesday in Ronan at the Lake Family Farms. For more than 85 years, the Lake family has been farming in the Mission Valley. One of their main products is high-quality, certified, disease-free seed potatoes. I had the opportunity to tour the culture lab there and even see some spuds getting loaded on the trucks. The lakes and producers across Montana work tirelessly to feed our state, nation, and the world. Our producers drive our state's #1 industry. Despite that, they haven't always felt like they've had their voices heard in Helena. We're committed to changing that. That's why yesterday I brought together leaders of our state's agriculture groups for a roundtable discussion. We welcome to the governor's office representatives from the Montana Farm Bureau, Montana Grain Growers Association, Montana Stock Growers Association, Montana Agricultural Business Association, Montana Wool Growers Association, Montana Cattlemen's Association, and the pulse crop industry. They told me it was the first time they've been brought together for such a meeting. We'll continue seeking their input and listening to their concerns and ideas on how the state can better serve our farmers, ranchers, and others in the ag industry. We heard loud and clear that Montana's regulatory schemes burden them. Too many unnecessary, burdensome regulations cost them time and money. It's past time to cut back this thicket of red tape, and it's one of my top priorities. That's why, on my second day in office, I signed an executive order to establish the Red Tape Relief Task Force. Lieutenant Governor Kristen Juris, a 4th-generation Montanan who grew up on her family's ranch near Conrad, is leading this effort. She and the team are in the process of conducting a top-to-bottom review of regulations in every single state agency. They are leaving no stone unturned as they identify excessive, outdated, and unnecessary regulations. The task force seeks your public input, and we'd love to hear from folks across the state about the red tape they'd like to see reviewed, rolled back, or repealed. Please visit governor.mt.gov to find the Red Tape Relief Task Force portal and submit your ideas. I look forward to receiving the task force report and taking action to provide our ag industry and others with much needed relief. Unfortunately, the burdens our farmers and ranchers face aren't limited to red tape. They're also burdened by taxes on their business equipment. Many of our producers have tens of thousands of dollars worth of equipment that sit around 10 months of the year, but they still have to pay tax on that equipment. I've heard about it a few weeks ago when I visited the Hay Hook Ranch just north of Livingston. To reduce this burden on our farmers and ranchers, the Big Jobs Act, or Business Equipment Grows Jobs Act, boosts the business equipment exemption by 100%. It will eliminate the business equipment tax burden for 4,000 Montana small business owners, including 1,500 farmers and ranchers. This will help Sky Anderson, who owns and operates the Hay Hook Ranch, invest in his equipment and expand his operation. I appreciate the efforts and leadership of Representative Kazmaier and Senator Hoeven to get the Big Jobs Act to my desk, and I look forward to signing it into law. Another thing that we've heard from our ag industry is the need for increased meat processing capacity here in Montana. I've heard from the Montana Cattlemen's Association just yesterday. Montana is home to some meat processing facilities, but due to a skilled labor shortage, some of these are not in operation. Working with the legislature, we added meat cutting as a skilled trade eligible for the Montana Trades Education Credit, or MTEC. MTEC will provide for as many as 1,000 scholarships per year by offering businesses a 50% credit for their employees to learn a trade, including meat cutting. I look forward to signing this important bill into law. It's no secret that Montana commodities like wheat, barley, beef, and pulse crops are recognized throughout the world for their superior quality. Yet the Montana brand is often lost in the supply chain. I look forward to working with the legislature and our partners in the ag community to preserve the Montana brand through the supply chain and help our producers capture more of their hard work. These are just a few of our administration's initial focuses to support our farmers and ranchers. The fact of the matter is our producers need and deserve leaders who will work tirelessly on their behalf. They couldn't have stronger advocates than they do in Mike Foster at the Department of Agriculture and Mike Honeycutt at the Department of Livestock. Director Foster, would you like to say a few words?
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you, Governor. I appreciate it. And I also want to thank Governor Gianforte for proclaiming Montana Ag Week. This celebration is about appreciating all the ways that agriculture enriches our lives. Here in Montana, we have reason to celebrate. Agriculture is our #1 industry. Our farmers and ranchers are second to none in the entire world and are resilient beyond measure. Montana is home to families that have been working the land for over a century, as well as some that are just starting out. They have dedicated their lives to providing us with safe, healthy, and affordable food, and each one is worthy of enormous appreciation. The ag industry has far-reaching economic impacts and involves a lot more than just the food we eat. For every 10 jobs on farms and ranches, 6 more jobs are generated here in Montana. The Department of Agriculture operates over 30 programs, handling everything from inputs like feed and fertilizer to beekeeping and grading grain for export. This time of year, our staff are inspecting seed potatoes grown at places like the Lake Family Farm in Ronan, where Governor visited earlier this week, as he mentioned. Those potatoes then are shipped across the nation and the world. Our staff are dedicated to helping the industry thrive and expand. And I can tell you that Montana agriculture is poised for tremendous growth. I came away from the Governor's Agricultural Roundtable that was held yesterday right in this room. I was filled with excitement for the incredible potential that exists for building value-added agriculture in Montana. Our department is keenly focused on promoting Montana's world-renowned ag products far and wide. We are acting as a catalyst by collaborating with ag and economic development organizations, producers, universities, and allied businesses to find ways to grow Montana's economy and create jobs through agriculture. We're thinking big and are ready to make positive impacts that will elevate our industry on a global scale for generations to come. I hope farmers and ranchers know that our department is a resource and an advocate for them. Thank you for supporting Montana agriculture, and happy Ag Week.
Thank you, Director Foster. You are serving Montana Ag well. Thank you for your work. Now, Executive Officer Honeycutt, if you'd like to say a few words.
Thank you, Governor Gianforte, and thank you, Director Foster. First, in celebration of National Ag Week, I want to thank our hardworking farmers and ranchers and all other employees of the agricultural supply chain within Montana who work hard every day in all kinds of conditions to produce a safe, abundant, and affordable food supply for the other 98% of us who don't work in agriculture. Their efforts contribute over $4 billion of revenue, forming a strong backbone to Montana's economy along with other keystone industries. Second, I want to thank and recognize Governor Gianforte and Lieutenant Governor Juras, who in the first months of this administration have shown a strong commitment to investing in infrastructure that will unleash the private sector to attract more value-added agricultural processing opportunities. Common sense deregulation that will remove long-standing and existing barriers to growth, and efforts to preserve the integrity of the Montana brand in the local, domestic, and international marketplace. These strategies will yield more income at the farm gate for our farmers and ranchers, and those dollars will turn over in our rural communities multiple times. They'll support Main Street businesses, they'll secure a local tax base to support schools, services, and infrastructure, and attract high-skill and good-wage jobs to communities that desperately need to keep people home and bring people home to rural Montana. The experience of the last year has taught us all not to take the security of our food chain for granted. With this, I think we all feel very strongly that it is time to thank a farmer or rancher for their efforts and show we are committed to the future of agriculture in Montana. Thank you.
Thank you, Executive Officer Honeycutt. Our ranchers are fortunate to have you at the helm over at the Department of Livestock. Thank you for your work. Before wrapping up today, I'd like to provide an update on the state's response to the pandemic. As of today, Montana has administered over 430,000 vaccine doses. More than 167,000 Montanans are now fully immunized. The progress we continue to make in combating this pandemic is very encouraging. We are protecting the most vulnerable and saving lives. Hospitalizations remain low, with 48 across the entire state today. We're also seeing greater supply from the federal government of vaccines. Next week, Montana will receive over 34,000 vaccine doses, an increase of more than 7,000 doses this week. And next Thursday, every Montanan who wants a vaccine will be eligible. When my name is called, I'm going to get one, and I encourage Montanans to do the same. Getting one of these safe and effective vaccines will protect you, your loved ones, and your neighbors from the virus. Ultimately, it will help us get back to our normal life. Montanans throughout our state are looking forward to reclaiming their lives, and getting a vaccine will help us get there. With that, I'd be happy to open it up for some questions, and I think we'll take our first one remotely here.
Hi, Governor Gianforte. This is Maritza Georgia from NBC Montana. Thanks for holding this press call. I've been emailing with your office today. I'm just wondering if you have any updates. I've heard there's been some issues with not actually supply of vaccine doses, but actual hands to help get those doses administered with pharmacies. Wondering if there's any update on whether or not there will be expanded licensing, or I guess lifted licensing requirements to allow nurses and other healthcare professionals to administer vaccines at pharmacies.
Yeah, General Quinn may want to comment additionally. Let me just say we are looking at some measures to make sure we have the hands available across the state, and we should have some news for you on that shortly. We'd like to remove some of those barriers. I don't know if there's anything you want to add there, General Quinn.
Yeah, Maritza, and as you know, we continue to work with the federal government on our pharmacy program, the federal pharmacy program, and enrolling additional pharmacy providers. So in addition to the regulations that Governor Gianforte is looking at, we look at expanding the number of locations that Montanans can get the vaccine.
Great. Questions here in the room? Yeah, in the back.
Hi there. Okay. Hi there, Governor. Mara with Montana Free Press. Just wondering if you can give us some more specifics on the regulations that you heard of during the roundtable discussion that folks were really burdened by or wanting to have looked at.
Yeah, so thank you for that question. It kind of goes across the board. One of the things that comes up over and over again is some of the workforce issues, particularly with our meat processing. How do we get people in? That's why we've really focused on the trades education to make sure we get qualified scholarships in place for that. In addition, people are concerned about permitting and the time it takes to get permits approved. And it's kind of just friction that occurs between state agencies and getting back more of a culture of customer service. This has been a real priority for our administration. We also hear about the need for more broadband. We're hopeful that some of these COVID dollars that we'll be receiving into the state can be targeted there to help get both broadband and cell coverage more broadly within the state. Do we have another remote question? We don't? Okay. Yes.
Hi, Sam Wilson with Helena IR. So House Bill 121, which would affect local health boards' ability to regulate local health, is likely passing third reading today and heading to your desk. It's one of several similar bills that would do similar things. I'm guessing you've had conversations with House and Senate leadership on which one you want to sign. So I was just curious if this was the vehicle to do that, since this was one of your priorities.
Yeah, so thanks for the question. There has been a lot of discussion in the legislature about what is the appropriate balance for some of these local officials. We're going to look at these bills as they get to our desk. I know there were some last-minute changes, so we'll have to analyze that. I do think there are some appropriate steps that could be taken to make sure that decisions by local boards have oversight from local elected officials. I think that's appropriate. We elect people to make the decisions on behalf, and so we'll consider those as they get to our desk. Is there an online question?
If you're dialing in online and have a question for Governor Gianforte, you can dial 5* to enter the queue.
Okay. Jonathan, do you have a question?
Thank you, Governor. Jonathan Amberian, Montana Television Network. Perhaps General Quinn might be the best one to ask this, but I was curious if you guys have an estimation on how much of the Phase 1B and Phase 1B plus population is likely to have been reached by the vaccines by the time we open up to Phase 2 next week.
Yeah, it really depends on the district. I think we did do some survey data here recently. Can you share a little bit of that?
Yeah, one of the things you'll remember that we put out early on is don't let any vaccines go to waste. And so as counties are looking at 1B plus potentially being through that before April 1st, some counties are moving out to move into Phase 2 sooner. And so I think Missoula County, out of the big 7, Missoula County announced that Sunday they're going to move into 16 and above. I know Yellowstone County has moved into Phase 2 and above. Cascade County has moved into Phase 2 and above. I think the others are now looking at how far can they go. Butte Silver Bow is still April 1st. And so some may also prioritize within Phase 2 and within that age group. That's certainly up to the counties to do. But we see great progress across the counties. The vaccine increase coming into the state will help us move faster through Phase 2 and through Phase 1B plus. Those are still there.
Thank you.
And I would say that was really the motivation that we were seeing some counties getting to the end of their 1B plus, and we needed to provide direction on who to go to next, and it just made sense to open it up to all adults here in the state. We have a remote question.
Hi, Governor Gianforte. This is Rachel Kramer with Yellowstone Public Radio. I saw that the Billings Gazette has a story today that Representative Matt Rosendale is opposing earmarks in the American Rescue Plan, and that's leaving some city leaders worried that Montana doesn't have an advocate in the U.S. House, as representatives from other states are requesting funding for certain projects in specific places. And so is Rosendale's decision concerning to you, and
how are you planning to help advocate for Montana projects and priorities?
So I did not see that decision, so it's kind of difficult to comment right here. As far as the federal government goes, we've been spending most of our energy looking at this next wave of COVID dollars. As I've said publicly, I think the level of spending is excessive, but we're going to be good stewards of whatever we receive here in the state to make sure we're investing in long-term projects that have continual return for people here in Montana. Yes, Iris.
Thank you. This is Iris Samuels with the Associated Press. My question is about COVID variants. I'm wondering if you can provide an update about the spread of those variants in Montana, and if there's any cause for concern that those variants could contribute to another surge in COVID spread in the state.
Okay, I'm going to let my COVID expert answer that question.
So we are watching COVID variants very closely. There are 49 cases across Montana of COVID variants, 5 different variants that we've seen, 2 out of California that were recently named as variants of concern. There's the UK variant that's out there, and then there's 2 variants out of New York that are variants of interest, I think is how the CDC classifies them. So fairly decent spread across Montana as we're seeing that. Gallatin County certainly got hit first. So we will continue to watch that. We're testing for variants. We're watching for it, and we'll continue to work with the CDC on any steps that we need to take here in Montana. But again, I would just encourage everybody to continue with the practices that we've known have worked. Get your vaccine, the safe and effective vaccine, as Governor Gianforte mentioned, and let's get Montana where we want it to be for the summertime. Thanks.
General Quinn, could you just comment on the effectiveness of the vaccine on the variants?
So, you know, the Pfizer Moderna variant or vaccines came out early, as everybody knows. The EUA was done on those, but what we are still seeing for the variants is that it does prevent the hospitalization and really reduces the severity of any variant that's out there. But the CDC continues to study the variants, and so again, I would just recommend everybody get the vaccine so that we can protect Montana.
Do we have an online question?
Hi, this is Rachel Kramer again. I had a question for General Quinn as a follow-up. Do you happen to have data on how many cases caused by the variants were related to travel?
Yeah, so all of the counties are going back through, as you know, doing the contact tracing and doing the investigation on all the variants. I don't, at this time, have any conclusive evidence of travel that caused the variants to move into Montana.
Yes.
Hi, thanks, Governor. This is Aaron Kimball-Sannett with the Daily Montanan. I was hoping to kind of establish a little bit more of a timeline for your wolf trapping experience in February. I'm curious if you know how long after you set the trap that you were able to get to the wolf.
So first let me say, I think trapping is a very effective tool in wildlife management and predator control. I was pleased to be able to harvest a wolf here recently. It was an investment of probably 40 days over 5 years. I was honored that we have such a great program here in the state, and we followed with the slight misstep I had in not having the certification. I had the hunting license, I had the trapping license, I had the wolf tag. We were checking these traps on a regular basis as required by law, and as soon as we determined that we had have a wolf, we dispatched the wolf. So, yes.
Just to follow up on that, and Mara Silvers from Montana Free Press, did you personally set the traps?
I was involved in setting the traps, yes.
But there was other people involved as well?
I had a mentor, essentially, who we worked together. I've been hunting wolves for probably 5 years. I've hunted wolves on public land in the tobacco roots on some private ground in Willow Creek and public land south of Bozeman. This was a ranch in Paradise Valley. I was spending more time down there this winter because my wife was fortunate enough to draw a bison tag, and the 15th happened to be the last day of bison season. So I spent most of that time over the last 5 years hunting wolves, and have a friend that has done extensive trapping. So we worked together to set these traps, and we kind of paired up to make sure they were checked on a regular basis. And again, it was a tremendous honor to be able to harvest a wolf here in Montana.
Just two more follow-up questions on that, if I can. One, can you tell us who that friend or mentor was?
You're asking me where my hunting locations are, and it's about the same thing.
It's not
That's
for me
not a polite
personally.
question.
I'm
Did
sorry.
you have a follow-up?
Sorry, I didn't catch the last part of your answer. I'm sorry, I actually just didn't.
I didn't give you the name, no. So I want to make sure I got permission from him first. But
Okay. And then the second question was, after taking the course, I think it was yesterday, would you have done everything the same way, especially with a wolf that had a radio collar, or after having taken that course, are you reassessing how you proceeded with those practices?
yeah, that's a fair question. I've been trapping for nearly 50 years. I started when I was just a tot, and again, I think it's a integral part of our heritage and an important tool in predator control and wildlife management. So the class, I made a mistake. I'm glad I was able to check the box last night. It was a good refresher for me, but in hindsight, I wouldn't have done anything differently. Do we have any online questions?
Hi, Governor Gianforte. This is Melissa Loveridge with the Bozeman Daily Chronicle. I have heard from Montanans who believe that the vaccine will do more harm than good, or even that the vaccine will inject a microchip to track them. Do you have anything that you would want to share with those Montanans who don't want to get the vaccine for those specific reasons?
Yeah, I can speak for myself. When my name comes up early in April, I'm going to be in line to get my shot. Based on the data, we're seeing the results. We're seeing hospitalizations go down, new infections go down. We've seen it to be effective against the variants. These vaccines are safe and effective, and it's the best path for us to get back to a more normal life and ultimately take these masks off and get rid of them for good. And I'm looking forward to that day. So I would encourage people. It's their decision. We're not going to force anybody to get a vaccine. But for me, I'm going to get it, and I would encourage other people to consider it. Jackie?
Yeah, Governor, do you have plans to get a vaccine soon? Do you know when your name will be coming up?
Stay posted. I don't want to spoil the surprise. Yes.
So one bill that just failed in I believe it was the House today, was one of your bills, which would have provided relief on capital gains taxes to some entrepreneurs. There was some concern, I guess, from Republicans that it would end up benefiting marijuana businesses, and that was kind of one of the concerns they cited in voting against it. Is this something that you're planning on working with them on to relieve their concerns and potentially revive that bill, or is it dead now?
Yeah, so I am a big supporter of this entrepreneur magnet. I think it's a key component of our overall comeback plan. That news came out just before this conference, so we'll be in dialogue with the legislature, and we're going to continue to promote that. We think it's good policy. Yes.
Thanks, Arn with the Daily Montana again. Speaking of marijuana, now that there's a rather large implementation plan moving its way through the legislature, albeit in its early stages, just curious if there are any kind of big things that you want to make sure that are in there, and as a sort of corollary, how important do you think it is to hew closely to the text of I-190 as it was passed by the voters?
Yeah, so I would say that we worked closely with the legislature to put together a package that we thought we could implement. I think it's important that we fulfill the wishes of the voters. That's why we work so hard to get a proposal. But we've essentially put it in a box. We've given it to the legislature. They need to consider it and deliberate take input from their constituents, and we'll see what comes out the other end of the process. I have been committed from day one to, as it relates to recreational marijuana, to implement the intent of the voters. So, Iris?
I have another question relating to the vaccination effort, specifically people who may be concerned about getting the vaccine. I'm wondering if you have any sense of if enough Montanans will be interested in getting the vaccine to achieve herd immunity, and if so, if you have a sort of timeline or estimate for when that herd immunity will be achieved.
Well, I'm encouraged by the progress we've made. We see the numbers go up every single day. We are preparing to shift to, up until now, we've been supply constrained. We're going to shift as we move past April 1st and more communities move into this all adults to more of a demand creation mode with public service announcements and other things to communicate the safety and the effectiveness of this vaccine because we want to see people that choose to get vaccinated. And I think as people see the positive progress that we're making in terms of less hospitalizations, less infections, and very minor side effects from the vaccine, sore arms and things of that sort, people will be more comfortable getting the vaccine. So I think it'll be easier and easier as time goes on. Do we have any other questions here in the room? Yes.
On the question of the marijuana bill, I know that the Heart Fund was a huge a piece of your policy that you're hoping to get enacted. Is there additional legislation that we should be looking for in regards to the Heart Fund, or as it's delineated through the marijuana bill, is that the are those the parameters that we should be expecting for that program to get off the ground?
Yeah, so we're excited about the Heart Fund because, as you know, we have a mental health and drug addiction problem in the state. The Heart Fund was a series of community-based programs to help deal with that. It was funded in part by the marijuana revenue. We still support using a portion of the marijuana revenue to do that. That's the way it was designed from the beginning. The funding also comes from some of the tobacco settlement dollars that we've already received, and matching that money then with some federal dollars to make up the bulk of the Heart Fund funding. It's about fully funded, it's about $23.5 million a year, and that'll go a long way to helping NGOs and local communities help people get healthy and beat addiction and deal with some of the mental health issues we have to help them get healthier. Because their mental health, drug addiction are very closely intertwined. Do we have any other online one? Okay, great.
Hi, Governor Gianforte. Rachel Kramer again with Yellowstone Public Radio. Apologies if you've already said this, but what's the timeline for the Red Tape Relief Task Force? Would they be recommending changes to state regulations later this year, or what does that look like?
Yeah, so the Red Tape Relief Task Force was put in place via executive order my second day in office. The initial report is due this summer. The website is up, governor.mt.gov. We're looking for suggestions from across the state. We ask that you tell us where the friction is and also tell us how you think we ought to fix it. We're doing internal agency reviews in every agency, but we really need the help of every Montanan who's experienced friction with the state agency. I've personally reached out to many of the association heads, and they've reached out to their members, and that was a great place to start, whether it's the realtors or the home builders or the stock growers, and just to solicit their input. So we do a comprehensive job. So the report's due the middle of the summer, but I will tell you, as we find things that are problematic, we're not waiting to implement a solution. Yes.
Hi, again, Arne with the Daily Montanan. On the subject of pending legislation, I noticed that I think due for a hearing next week is a bill from Representative Jane Gillette sweeping changes to things like continuous eligibility and Medicaid and CHIP and sort of cross-governmental verification. I'm wondering what kind of, in general terms, changes you would like to see to the current practices of eligibility and verification for state welfare programs.
Yeah, as you are well aware, there's lots of bills in the legislature, and we're tracking them. We'll see what makes it through the process, and anything that gets to my desk, we'll give it careful consideration. I'm pleased to have Adam Meyer in place at the Department of Health and Human Services, and we're looking for ways to make sure we get aid to the people that need it and provide a safety net and a hand up for those that need it.
Real quick, has he expressed that those kind of regulatory changes are something that he is pursuing or that he is intent on seeing to you? Director Meyer?
I mean, we're looking at a lot of improvement opportunities across DPHHS. It's 42% of our state budget. It has many very important programs, including Child Protective Services, Medicaid, Medicare. There's workforce. There's a whole bunch of things. He's got one of the largest portfolios in the state, 2,900 employees. So I just believe that better is always possible, and that's what I've charged him with. Make it better. Jackie? Yeah, we'll make you the last one. You can back clean up.
I have a question probably for Director Foster or maybe also General Quinn that refers to Montana's agricultural industries, of course, depends on migrant seasonal farm workers, and it's about the time of year when they're going to start coming back. Will there be any effort to vaccinate people, farm workers coming into this state for COVID-19? Or is there any concern from your department about that influx of seasonal farm workers and COVID-19?
Why don't we, General Quinn, if you could comment about, as we move into April 1st and beyond, making it available to all adults, what our distribution plan is, and if somebody came to the state, how would they get a vaccine?
Sure. Yeah, so one of the things I would say, again, April 1st open to all Montanans and those coming into Montana. You'll recall that the FQHC out of Billings, the migrant worker FQHC, was added to the federal list, so vaccines will be going there to focus on migrant workers as well. Also, county health departments I know are reaching out to those populations to make sure that they're protected as well. So a lot of effort across the state to protect the workers that help Montana thrive.
Thank you for being here today.